Since my no-buy, low-buy and I took a break from each other last week, I thought I would raid the vaults for this week to save a little money and to also use what I have. So let's start with a comparison of jasmines that are currently already in my collection. I love jasmine. I lived in California for a while and we had some jasmine bushes right outside our apartment. And every spring, right about this time, late February, early March, the jasmine would bloom and they would just be beautiful. It would infuse the air. So, the three fragrances I have, the Dusties from times gone by, it's 2004 fragrance Flower Bomb by Victor and Rolf, really popular at the time it came out. It is a tea, bergamot, orchid, freesia, jasmine, patchouli, and rose fragrance. And so I would argue that this one has got the most complex notes in it, so we'll see if they are all prominent or on display, or it turns it into a well-blended complex fragrance. The next one is far less complex. There are only 3 notes listed as being the notes within this fragrance, but you can't argue that jasmine is one of the most important ones. Jasmine sambac, ambergris, and cashmere wood. Alien by Terry Mueller is also a staple on a lot of shelves. This has been around since 2005, so both of these fragrances are 2 decades old, but still sort of hold their own. This is one of the first ones I bought when I started collecting perfumes because there was a lot of nostalgia for it. And then last but certainly not least is one of the first fragrance houses that I was drawn to when I started following fragrances was Imaginary Authors. I thought that the idea of fragrances based on the titles of imaginary books was just fantastical and creative and super duper interesting to me. At the time I was still very cautious about spending, trying to get back into that world. So this is a body oil and not the fragrance because it costs slightly less, and I figured an oil would also be long lasting. This is Fox in the Flower Bed, and it has a jasmine, says it has an air accord, tulip, wildflower honey, frankincense, pink pepper, and silver thistle. So I love this fragrance. I know I do because that's when I bought it based on a sample. But as I do the comparison, I'm hoping that one comes out complex and lovely as well compared to the other 2. So let's start with our little friend Flower Bomb. It is not a spray, so I cut a really teeny tiny little dabber to go in there. So let's put it in there, get it nice and soaked. Immediately out of the jar, bottle. It is more complex than just a jasmine. In fact, I don't get a huge splash of jasmine right out of the gate. That may be the bergamot and the orchid and the tulip. There's a lot more in here than just jasmine. But it is quite pretty. So I'm going to see if I can get 3 different fragrances on me in such a way that I can try them all separately. And you want to take a little finger dab here. This has got a bracing scent to it. I want to say it almost has a kind of minty or camphor kind of smell, which might be the patchouli acting on the flowers. And there is rose in here as well. This one is not strictly jasmine. If you're looking for a jasmine perfume, Flower Bomb, although quite lovely and very well blended with really nice notes, is not necessarily jasmine forward. So put that one aside. Next one, Mueller's Alien. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the smell of this. Yep, and that one is significantly jasmine right out of the bottle. It's very smooth, has a creamy kind of feel to it. I try not to be misled by cashmere wood with thinking too much of soft cashmere, but I do think cashmere wood, among the different woods, has a softer, mellower fragrance to it. Sandalwood can, depending on what it's blended with, but it can also have a very sharp fragrance, like it was just cut in a mill. That kind of sandalwood has got its place and is pretty as well, but it's not smooth. This is cashmere wood. And alongside the jasmine, it's really, really pretty and really soothing. Put it on the skin. Little side story, I was in a wine bar in San Francisco. My husband and I were just walking around. We popped into it because it looked interesting. Turns out there was an event there for vampire and vampire adjacent people. quite a while ago. Anyway, the woman who was really sweet and, welcomed us in and said, hey, yeah, we do have a private event going on, but you're welcome to stay, that sort of thing. She smelled fantastic. I asked her what she was wearing. It was Mueller Alien, so I've been familiar with it probably since when it came out in the early 2000s, but now I finally own a bottle, and I should wear it more often, because it is quite lovely. Okay, last but certainly not least, Imaginary Authors. Got this cute little box it comes in. So, opens up, there's your little bottle of oil. The oil is just a oil pump. So it's going to take a little longer to dry down. And I remember I loved this the first time I smelled it. And yep, this is one that if you like jasmine and you like just smelling jasmine on the breeze, this is gorgeous. It has, this is the one that I told you has the air accord, which may be why it reminds me so much of smelling it on the breeze. I don't get a lot of the other fragrances, the tulip or the wildflower honey. I'm waiting for the frankincense, the pink pepper, and the silver thistle, because I'm hoping that that comes out in the dry down, just because I love those fragrances, but the jasmine is absolutely gorgeous. And now that I've reminded myself that I have this, I may use this a little more often as a body oil after the shower. I talked about my low-buy project pan that I'm trying to finish up some of these oils and creams and things like that I'd collected over the years. Just a quick shout out, hooray, Imaginary Authors. You've entertained me greatly with your story notes and your fragrances, and I really do love this one.